Hello and welcome. This video is going to be more of an informal, just kind of a quick overview of the changes I've made to my cube. I'm going to make a more in-depth video explaining the changes in detail, but for those who are interested, I changed my cube. I'm going to go through the new archetypes, some of the cards I'm excited about, and then at the end of this video, I'm going to do a draft with my Discord and go through my deck and then all the decks they drafted too. Because the end goal here is I'm trying to get this on Magic Online. So I want to refine it as much as possible. So I'm putting out this video. If people have any suggestions on the list, there's going to be a link in the description to the cube list for things you'd like to see changed. Let me know. And I'm just going to briefly go over it. So the first thing you'll see that's changed is there are like 2 planeswalkers in the whole cube. The main objective I'm trying to get done with this cube is to reduce the number of cards that win the game on their own, like Jace the Mind Sculptor, Oko, Teferi, things like that, and increase the amount of cards that are like, they have combo potential. For example, like Dig-Site Engineer, right? This card, if you just play it by itself, it's a 3-mana 3/3, it's not great. But if you're playing artifacts and you're casting artifact spells, you can pay 2. Now you start getting constructs. And so I want the player to be able to, or kind of be forced to, draft around engines and synergy, just engines and synergy, rather than just taking like independently powerful cards, right? And that's the objective. So something like running Glimpse of Nature for me is a lot more exciting than running Harmonize, which is Harmonize. Like just straight up 4 mana, draw 3 cards is less interesting to me for this cube than 1 mana whenever you play a creature spell this turn, draw a card. Because now you can draft around it and suddenly, you might end up with 1 mana, draw 20 cards, or if you combo this with something like Alurin, where you can play creatures for free, it could end up being 1 mana, draw your deck. So I like the unbounded potential of these engine-based cards. And the other benefit is you don't just lose to 1 card. I think one thing that I see a lot is like, when you lose a game to a card like Jace the Mind Sculptor, Oko, it's like, man, if only they didn't have that 1 card, like I would have won. Whereas if you lose to a deck that's running like Alurin or Birthing Pod, it's kind of just like, wow, their whole deck was sweet, and I lost to their whole deck. So it's like, at least to me, a more fun experience to lose to, and definitely more fun experience to win with, because if you're running Alurin, you're going really deep. And that's really what I want to encourage the player to do. So we'll talk about that in a second. The reason I do still have Jace, he's very iconic. He is kind of a sweet card, and Control needed a couple win conditions. So Jace is just there, if you do want to draft a standard like take all the removal Jace deck, you can. It's just going to be much harder to win because you really have to protect your Jace the Mind Sculptor. Otherwise, you might run out of win conditions. So the first new archetype that I'm bringing is Artifact Aggro. So kind of one of the tenets of this would be like Steel Overseer, Arcbound Ravager. We got a lot of new cards for this. So we have Cranial Plating. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. This is really strong in a format with Moxes floating around. So you could just, even if you just play this in a random aggro deck, if you have a couple Moxes, this gives like +3/+0 for 1 equip, which is still very strong. But then the ceiling is incredibly high. If you can go off with like some other cards, like we have Mersmith. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you can pay 1, make a token. Or Psy Master Thopterist. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, make a token. There are just a lot of artifact creatures. So we have like Fingerback Walker, Memnite, Ornithopter. Gingerbrute is a new one. Gingerbrute is particularly good with Cranial Plating because he's essentially unblockable. Similar with Hope of Gear Report or Signal Pest. These cards are very evasive, so they're pretty good to put equipment on. So I think I like those cards. They're also good inclusions in quite a few other decks, which we'll get to. But yeah, so that's essentially what white is meant to be. We have Lasheel. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under your control and draw a card, this ability triggers only once each turn, which is really sweet. Ranger Captain of Eos can grab Walking Ballista, which is like an awesome thing. Mentor the Meek draws cards when you're making all of these tokens. Blade Splicer gets a lot better when you're taking advantage of the artifact creature. We're running Oswald Fiddlebender. You can sacrifice an artifact. It's like Birthing Pod for artifacts, basically. You get access to Aethersworn Canonist to hate out the non-fair decks, which is pretty sweet. The second archetype that's new is based around, Kirkland Ironworks. So these decks are kind of all merging together. The objective here is not doing like specific 2-card combos, but creating like 3-card engines that can run in a variety of different shells, right? So you could run artifact aggro with Cart Clan Ironworks for value. You can run a fully dedicated KCI combo deck, or really anywhere in between. I just want a lot of different possibilities. So Cart Clan Ironworks goes well with a lot of these random artifact creatures. So we're running Scrap Trawler. Whenever it or another artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you get another artifact with lesser CMC. So with that plus KCI and something like Junk Diver or Mir Retriever, you can get infinite mana, get all the artifacts back. If you have anything like a Ichor Wellspring, which is down here, when it enters or is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. You can then draw your deck, and then if you have like a Walking Ballista or something like that, you can just kill your opponent. I think I even have a Pyrite Spellbomb, which you can use to kill your opponent off KCI if you have like a Chromatic Star or Black Lotus. I heard is a pretty good card to get back too. And if you don't want to go full KCI, there's also, where are they? Second Sunrise, Fate's Reward, or fully playable eggs decks. So the main combo with Second Sunrise, Fate's Reward is with like Black Lotus or Lotus Bloom, in particular with Second Sunrise, where you like sacrifice Black Lotus, and then you Second Sunrise, get back Black Lotus. And then if you have something like an Eternal Witness, you can then get back the Second Sunrise. And then if you have like a way to sacrifice the Eternal Witness, now you've generated a loop for infinite mana and infinite damage or whatever. The most easy way to get back Second Sunrise is with something like a Codex Shredder. So sacrifice this, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And then if you combo that with anything like a Zurin Orb, you can sacrifice all of your lands. And then Second Sunrise gives you back your lands. Then you Codex Shredder to get back the Second Sunrise. And you keep looping it to get infinite mana, infinite life. And then, you know, again, just kill them with like whatever you really want to at that time. It's if you have infinite life and infinite mana, you should be able to kill your opponent somehow. Although the win conditions are more sparse, so you may have to come up with some janky one like Pyrite Spellbombing your opponent, or even milling your opponent with Codex Shredder is an option for a lot of these decks. But there's also just a lot of cool random utility with Second Sunrise and Fate's Reward that I've been experiencing. Like people just put it in a deck that's running a lot of creatures with sacrifice. So you have like Carrion Feeder with some Blood Artists. You just sacrifice your whole team. Where's Blood Artist? So whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So you could just like sacrifice your whole team, ping them for a bunch, Second Sunrise your team back, and kill them. Or there's just so many different possibilities for these cards. So I'm really excited to see what people come up with. And that's the kind of one of the main hopes is like, I'm creating a lot of possibility. There are archetypes that I've hard put in there that I'm hoping people will draft, but there's archetypes people will figure out that I never really intended to have, which is kind of awesome. Like one that I didn't intend but ends up being cool is running Paradoxical Outcome. So this returns any number of non-land permanents to your hands, and then you draw a card for each card returned this way. You run that in your Alurin deck or like Earthcraft deck, which I guess I don't think I've talked about that. So we'll talk about Alurin. Any player may play a creature card with total casting cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant and without paying its casting cost. So basically, creatures 3 or less are free. You can cast them at instant speed. Your opponent can too, so it is a bit risky, but the payoff is pretty big. So if you go with Alurin, you can just cast, you know, any number of their 3 drops, 2 drops, or 1 drops for free. And then if you cast Paradoxical Outcome, they all go back to hand. You draw a card for each card returned this way. You know, you do that, you combine that with Glimpse of Nature, suddenly you have this ridiculous card draw engine going on. And you can draw your deck and then just win by casting Thassa's Oracle for 0 mana to deck yourself, or, you know, generating infinite mana and winning. You know, you can get Infinite Storm, you can cast Brain Freeze in an Alurin deck. Like there's a bunch of different ways to win. Finale of Devastation for infinite. Give your creatures plus a million in haste seems like a cool way to win. So that's like one synergy that I just hadn't thought of. Another one is Intruder Alarm. Another good way to go off with Alurin. So you have Intruder Alarm Earthcraft. Earthcraft lets you tap your creatures to untap basic lands. It kind of gives them pseudo haste in that they all tap for mana. But then Intruder Alarm says whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So if you have like Earthcraft Intruder Alarm and then you're just playing like a bunch of 1-drop elves or whatever, every single time they come into play, you untap all of them. And then you can tap them all to add mana. Like, you know, you untap your basic lands and get mana that way. So you could just go off. And that goes infinite with Shrieking Drake. 1 mana, when it comes into play, return a creature to its owner's hand. You can return itself. You just keep Shrieking Draking, untap all your creatures, get infinite mana, infinite untaps or whatever. Or White Mane Lion 2. It even works with Mana War. That one's a bit more expensive, but also a good option. So that's a good way to go off. But then Intrude Alarm also is really sweet with Prime Speaker Vanifar. So she is Birthing Pod. So you sacrifice a creature, search for a creature with 1 greater. But you sacrifice a creature, it comes into play, it untaps all your creatures, and you could just keep activating her ability to deck yourself. Or not deck yourself, but put all of your creatures into play. And then if you like finish with Revel Arc, you get 2 drops, and then you can keep going. That's another option where you could second Sunrise basically every creature card in your deck into play at once. I guess along those lines, to make Birthing Pod better, because it's good if you have value, but you need some amount of combos to win. We have a lot of the persist combos. So cards like, where is it? The one that most people know of is Vizier of Remedies. If 1 or more -1/-1 counters will be put on a creature you control, that many counters -1 are put on it instead. So if you combine that with one that most people know of, like Murderous Redcap, it negates the persist counters, so it just keeps coming back forever. So if you have like Vizier of Remedies, Murderous Redcap, and with a different sack outlet, like Altar of Dementia, you can do infinite damage to everything and mill your opponent, or you can combine it with Blasting Station to do infinite damage, or even a Phyrexian Altar. So there's a lot of sacrifice outlets that you can use to combo with all of those. And so, we have like Melira, Good Fortune Unicorn puts a +1/+1 counter, which negates the -1/-1 counter. There are some in colorless, like Metallic Mimic, puts counters on them. You could name Goblin, and then Metallic Mimic makes all your goblins come in with counters. And so these cards are good, but then, you need to assemble all of them. So having Birthing Pod or having Prime Speaker Vanifar as ways to tutor them up seems really good. We also have Collected Company. If you've noticed, the curve of this cube is very low. So this is just a really sick way to be able to find all of your creature combos and just start going off that way. And then ways to protect them, we have things like Spellskite, changes the spell. We have Sylvan Safekeeper, sacrifice a land, target creature you control gains Shroud, which is also a combo with Second Sunrise, right? You can just sacrifice all of your lands and go off. Sylvan Safekeeper is also kind of sweet with Mayhem Devil. You can turn your lands into 1 damage to anything. So hopefully you're getting what I'm doing here. There's just so many different ways you can draft this cube. Different cards that go together that are sweet. In terms of normal decks, you have like the standard Storm. I've improved it quite a bit with some sweet cards like Bonus Round. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, they copy it and can choose new targets. I think this card in particular enables a new type of Storm build, which is, it's like Thousand Year Storm, but you just run Bonus Round instead. So you just have like Bonus Round and then like Finale of Promise Lightning Bolts, or like Bonus Round plus Underworld Breach Lightning Bolts. So now every time you bolt them, it does 6 damage, and you can just like deck them, which is kind of awesome. And then this is supposed to be quick, and I'm trying to go as fast as I can. There's like 2 more. There's some ninjas synergies going on. So we have like Cloud of Fairies, Thieving Skydiver, stealing some of the artifact creatures is sweet. But then we have like unblockable creatures like Ornithopter, Ginger Brute, Signal Pest, Vault Scourge even for 1 mana. Really start enabling ninjas. So then along that line we have Changeling Outcast. Just a couple ninjas, Ingenious Infiltrator, Yuriko, Baleful Strix helps enable that too. So it's a small ninja sub-theme if you want to go that route. And then we have Sacrifice in Black. So we have a lot of black sack creatures, including the new one, Jadar, Ghoul Caller of Nephalia. This one's sweet. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. It's kind of like Goblin Rabblemaster, but for 1 mana less. And that's exactly what you want when you're running like Blood Artist and stuff. And I have Undead Augur too. Whenever it or another zombie you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life, because there's a lot of zombies going around. So, if you have this plus Undead Augur, suddenly you're drawing a card every turn. If you combine that with Blood Artist, you're doing a lot of cool stuff. So the sacrifice deck is really awesome. We have, as far as payoffs, Corvold is a really good one. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a counter on him and draw a card. So Corvold, even just with fetch lands, is like a ridiculous card. But then if you have like Corvold plus Greater Gargadon, you can start drawing a whole bunch of stuff. So he's a really good payoff. And then another one is like the Gitrog monster. I love this card so much. This gets us into the lands archetype, which does overlap with the sacrifice archetype. But he lets you play additional lands. Whenever land cards go into your graveyard, you draw a card. So him plus fetches are good. Him plus like Zurin Orb sacrificing your lands is good. Squandered Resources is another enabler for like Storm, Second Sunrise, and things like that, where you can sacrifice your lands for mana. So you could just, hopefully you're getting the feeling that you can really go off in a bunch of different ways. But the hope here is that all of these combos that you're going off with, it's not like, oh, I always assemble Splinter Twin and Pestermite. It's like you could have Gitrog Monster, Squandered Resources, and be in Storm. You could have Gitrog Monster plus Molten Vortex plus Life from the Loam and just start like burning your opponent out. You could have Gitrog Monster plus Ramen Up Excavator plus like a Dust Bowl that adds colorless mana. So you can start like killing their lands and drawing cards. And so there's like so many different ways to draft this deck. And I'm excited about all of them. I've added Field of the Dead too, which is just a sweet enabler. And this cube, when I'm drafting it in paper at least, I give the players the option to pick snow-covered lands to make things like Frostwalk Bastion work. So Field of the Dead is a little bit easier to enable because you can add like half snow-covered lands, half non-snow-covered basics. So it's just easier to turn on. But to facilitate that as well, this cube is full of ambitious combos, and I understand that. So I've made the mana base better. I've added one extra cycle of duels over what's standard, and I've also just switched it to completely fetches and duels plus one value land. Most of these end up being the sacrifice lands, like Horizon Canopy is really good with Life from the Loam and stuff. So the mana is way better. You have 2 Savannas, 2 Windswept Heaths, 1 Temple Garden, and it's the same for every single color. So it's a lot easier to hit your colors because, this cube's full of all good playables. It's easy to get enough playables and have good mana. So I think the decks overall just end up quite a bit stronger. So I think that's mostly an overview. Like there's a million more things that I could talk about. Trying to think what else there really is. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's impossible to explain all of them. I think there's tons of combos I haven't even thought up yet. So yeah, we're just going to do the draft, show you guys what it looks like when I draft it, what decks come out. And then if you have any cards you'd like to see added or cards you think are bad in the cube, please let me know in the comments or in my Discord. And we do drafts like this kind of often in my Discord, not just with my cube. If you want to draft another cube, like you're welcome to just come and join. So just join my Discord and then ask a mod to give you the role anyone for cube. And then anytime someone just comes in here and types like at anyone for cube, it'll ping you. So that way it'll be like, hey, we're drafting, come join. So if you're interested in doing this in the future, let me know and we can get on it. Otherwise, enjoy the draft. Oh, and the objective here is to get this on Magic Online. So if you know anyone who has any power in that, definitely talk to them and be like, hey, this cube looks sweet if you think it looks sweet. Otherwise, just enjoy the draft. All right, so here we are drafting my cube. I'm doing this with people on my Discord. So thank you to everyone who's been helping with drafting these things. Ooh, first pick Allure, and how do I say no? I love this card so much. There's Birthing Pod in the same pack. These decks are kind of like, they do kind of go together. So there's a lot of sweet stuff there. If I wasn't taking Allurin, I probably would take Pod. I like Stoneforge, getting like Cranial Plating, Batterskull. Things like that are pretty sweet. Seasoned Pyromancer is good. If we wheel Beck and Call, we have like a pretty good setup for Allurin. So let's see if we can go that direction. There's Fecundity. So Fecundity is good if you're trying to go like Aristocrat Storm, right? You can like cast all of your creatures with Allurin. And then if you just have like a Carrion Feeder, it acts kind of like a Glimpse of Nature #2. But it's not as good in that type of deck. It's better in other decks because it triggers off tokens as well. We could just take Mana Confluence or Counterspell just to, get fixing and stay open. There's also a Deathrite Shaman. Oh, wait, I want Thassa's Oracle. That's a really good Allurin win condition because now if we wheel Fecundity, basically what we can do is like, if we play Allurin and get Glimpse of Nature, then we can draw in our entire deck and then just play Thassa's Oracle as the last creature. And that seems like a good way to win to me. So I'm on board with that. Ketria Triome is decent fixing. This pack overall is kind of weak for us, except for potentially a Thraben Inspector. But, I mean, I'm fully committed to Allurin. I normally would not recommend drafting like this, but this is for the video, so let's just see if we can get a sweet Allurin deck and hope we don't get cut. Because that's another problem. We could always pivot to something else, but we will see what happens here. There's an Ornithopter. That card's okay. Like, there are some synergies with it. Like, you can just cast it for free, like with Glimpse of Nature and stuff. We could take Toski, Bearer of Secrets. This deck typically fills up with a lot of cheap creatures. And, you know, you want to draw into Allurin or Thassa's Oracle. So being able to just hit with this and draw a bunch of cards, I think is useful. It also helps us cut green, which is something we're trying to do, establish our place. I'm feeling like black-red is open, though. So we could make a hard pivot into black-red sacrifice if things keep looking like they are currently. We're getting Flame Slash, Village Rites, Zurin Orb, stuff like that. We could take a Nest Invader. This kind of keeps us open to go into green-black sacrifice if that becomes a thing. The other option is Metallic Mimic for going into like creature-based combos, like the Persist combos, or just like taking a Triome. But I think Nest Invader keeps us the most open. It also enables like a turn 3 Allurin, which is useful. There's an Intruder Alarm. So that's another option. Skyshot Ranger, these packs have been a bit weird. I could just take a Peatland. I could speculate on Intruder Alarm. It is good in the same type of deck that Allurin is good in. But I don't have any good like creatures that tap for mana. I haven't seen any. Someone could be sniping all of the green mana dorks. So we could just stay open and take this Nurturing Peatland. And I think I like doing that. I don't know, this is a very tough pick. Okay, there's Altar of Dementia. So I think that's going to be good no matter whether we end up in green-black, blue-green, or anything else. This is just a good combo card. It's also good, you know, if you have Allurin and you play your whole deck, you just mill them with Altar. Or if we get a Persist combo, it's a good sacrifice outlet. I really like Glissa too. And if we knew we were going into green-black for sure, that... Oh wait, I want White Mane Lion. Never mind. White Mane Lion Allurin is just the combo. If we can get Beck and Call, I think it's from the next pack, then we will be in business. Shardless Agent is just a good card. Titania, Protective Argoth or whatever is also really sweet, but we'll take a Shardless Agent. I don't really know where I'm going, but I'm interested in finding out. Hopefully nobody else is taking all of the mana dorks. If Beck and Call is gone, then we're going to have to hard pivot. Okay. We got Beck and Call. There's our card draw. So now we do have an infinite win loop. We cast Beck Call with Allurin and White Mane Lion, draw our whole deck until we find Thassa's Oracle and win that way. So our deck does now have the capability to win. What we need to do now is speed it up and increase consistency. That requires finding things like Fecundity out of the next pack, I think. Maybe a Sacrifice outlet. Yeah, there's Fecundity. So I like that. This just lets us like refill our hand. You know, sacrifice stuff, draw a bunch of cards. So now we need to find like Altar of Dementia. I don't think it can come around, which is unfortunate. And Blasting Station is gone. So we got to figure out some other way to draw cards. Thraben Inspector is pretty good. Retrofitter Foundry is a good card in general, but I don't think it's for us. Codex Shredder can get back Allurin, but that's kind of what Eternal Witness and things are for. On Thin Ice is removal. Sabira, Tlazudi, Caravaner is interesting as well. And then Grim Haruspex, I guess we can combine with Fecundity to draw our deck. But I think I probably am going to take the removal here. All right, there's Metallic Mimic or a Living Twister. I think I'm going to take the Mimic. Neither of them are like great cards for us. I do love Living Twister though. That card is sweet. There's our Intrude Alarm. There's also Fauna Shaman. Oh, this pick. No, I don't have enough time. I'm taking Fauna Shaman. I don't know which one was better, but Fauna Shaman lets me find White Mane Lion or Thassa's Oracle. Or actually lets me find Toski, Bearer of Secrets. There's Earthcraft. Okay. And Shrieking Drake in the same pack. Ooh. So Earthcraft gives us basically a plan B to Allurin. I'm really sad that I didn't get Raise the Alarm. I think... What did I take? Fauna Shaman? Raise the Alarm, the one that untaps all creatures when a creature enters, would have been much better. So That's a mistake. This cube is particularly difficult to draft, so it's not super easy. What do I take? Shrieking Drake or Earthcraft here? Like, Illurin and Fecundity went around. I think I take Earthcraft first. I think this card is a bit more important. Ooh, Noble Hierarch I like. Arkham's Astrolabe helps with mana, but Hierarch also helps with mana. And it's just a one-drop creature, so we need as many one-drop creatures as we can with Earthcraft. Because basically, the game plan with Earthcraft is you play as many one-drops as you can until you draw into Illurin, and then you go off. So let's take the Noble Hierarch. Right now, Fecundity is looking a little bit suspect because I don't have a sacrifice outlet, but if I get like a Carrion Feeder or something like that, I'm just sad all the colorless sacrifice outlets were like are not in. They were in pack 1 and they were in the same packs of like other cool stuff. Probably just have to take a tropical island. My mana is, a bit suspicious. Although Draga Tree Speaker is really good too, but I think I gotta take this trop because I'm gonna wheel something here. I don't really need Brain Freeze or anything because I have Thassa's Oracle. Who needs more than one win condition, right? Besides, it's gonna come around, so everything's fine. Ooh, there's some interesting options here. Enduring Renewal plus Fecundity, I guess, doesn't really work. But if we had like Altar of Dementia, Enduring Renewal plus Earthcraft, and like a Noble Hierarch is also an infinite win. So that's something to look out for. We could take Recruiter of the Guard. I like Lona's Cryptozoologist. It acts as kind of like a beck and call. It's just a bit slower. Elves of Deep Shadow can also like tap for mana and stuff. Recruit of the Guard can find Oracle, White Mane Lion, Shardless Agent, Toski, so it can find basically anything. Honestly, I think I'm going to take the 1-drop and try and wheel one of the other cards. I just need a critical mass of 1-drops. Fizzledip is kind of perfect. Scalding Tarn can also find Tropical Island, but Fizzledip, like, he just enters and draws a card. Yeah, I think I like that. Could try and wheel him, but I think that's a bit too greedy. We just need like a critical mass of 1-drops. Ooh, Sylvan Safekeeper is excellent. I like Elvish Reclaimer as well, but the Safekeeper, one way they can disrupt your combo is like you start White Mane Lioning, and then they kill it. And then you don't have a way to loop through your deck anymore. Sylvan Safekeeper just makes it so that everything is safe. The turn you're going off, like, they can't kill your creatures, which I like. Reclaimer would be good if we can find a Gaia's Cradle, but we don't have that yet. So let's take the Safekeeper. Okay, there's Ephemerate. Safi Eric's Daughter. Reclamation Sage. Eric's Daughter is interesting. There are some Eric's Daughter combos. She does kind of work with Fecundity. Rex Sage is interesting. Imperial Recruiter is also another tutor creature, but I think, honestly, Safi probably has the highest upside here. Like, we can get things that go, like, kind of infinite with her. There's Gaia's Cradle. It's unfortunate it's in the same pack as Horizon Canopy and Beast Whisperer. So, like, we are drafting the open archetype. We've just gotten pretty unfortunate with how the packs lay out. But I think Gaia's Cradle is pretty great. If we can get Elvish Reclaimer to come back around, I think we will be doing some cool stuff then. Ooh, there's our Shrieking Drake. So Shrieking Drake plus... where is it? Earthcraft is infinite creature enter the battlefields and infinite storm. But I guess Shrieking Drake plus Earthcraft Illurin is infinite mana. I think that's probably better than Knight of the Reliquary. Having 2 of these is also just good failsafe, and you can use these to protect your creatures. So like if they try and go for removal, you just like Shrieking Drake, bounce it back. I like Selfless Spirit here. Because the other game plan we can have is just attacking for damage, right? Like it's not a great game plan, but we have a bunch of dorky creatures. So like using Selfless Spirit to protect ourselves from a Wrath, if we like comboed off with Illurin and didn't quite draw our whole deck, this just protects our guys so that the following turn we can then hopefully win. Ooh, there's a Revelarch. So Safi Eric's Daughter plus Revelarch is an infinite combo if we find a sacrifice outlet. Again, unfortunately, all of the colorless ones were removed. But I will probably take a sack outlet because it turns on Fecundity. Yeah, there's a Carrion Feeder. It's kind of awkward. I do have an Elves of Deep Shadow. and a Nurturing Peatland. You know what? Let's... Oh, someone disconnected. Oh no. Okay, we have time to think about this pick. Carrion Feeder versus Cryptozoologist. The Zoologist is really good in the deck. I think I'm going to take this one. If Carrion Feeder was on color, maybe. Nobody's in black. This is crazy. We'll take a Shambling Ghast, I guess. Yeah, if possible. Ooh, wow, that came around. That's huge. Not only is this like a way to tutor up Guy's Cradle, but it's also just a good one-drop green creature for our deck. Life from the Loam last pick. No respect. I love Life from the Loam. I think one of the things that's kind of difficult to get across or, do in this cube is realize that not everyone understands the archetypes that I love drafting yet. So maybe over time, Life from the Loam, this Earthcraft Allure and stuff will get picked up more often. Here, because there are 3 really good creatures for our deck, I'm going to take the Fixing. Actually, honestly, Giver of Runes is pretty good too, because our mana is kind of awkward. We're banned with like very little in the way of fixing. So, Circle of Dreams Druid is good. That one does have a chance of coming around. We do have Safehold Elite, which also goes infinite with Metallic Mimic. So we could have like 3 different overlapping infinite combos here if we can find a colorless sacrifice outlet. So I don't know, maybe I don't know what I took over Altar of Dementia, but it would have ended up really good here because I could go Revelark, Safi, Metallic Mimic, Safehold Elite, and then if I get, other stuff, we could go even deeper. Could take Spellskite and try and wield the Circle of Dreams Druid. Spellskite just protects all of my combos, plus it draws a card. Like, nobody's going to take this card, right? It's really good for my deck, and there's also Rothello, so if I get one of those 2, I think I'm doing okay. Spellskite is a bit all in, but you know what? We're all in. Ooh. Oh, man. Okay. So yeah, we need a sack outlet. Renegade Rallier plus Safi Ericstotter is also an infinite combo. You play Renegade Rallier, and then you sacrifice... Or you sacrifice Safi for something. Then you play Renegade Rallier, getting back Safi Ericstotter, and then you sacrifice Safi, targeting Renegade Rallier, and you just keep looping them. So if you have any way to kill the Renegade Rallier, then you just get infinite creature into the battlefields, which is really nice. I think I gotta take this Temple Garden, though. Pilgrim and Rallier are both very good for the deck. Okay, we have a Waterlogged Grove. I like that. Jataxian Probe. Shulane Teller of Tales is like the perfect card for this deck, but I'm expecting that one to come around a bit, and like we need to be able to cast it, right? So getting our mana set up first, I think, is a bit better. So we are going to take this Grove and just hope that Shulane comes around. We also have like plenty of playables, so we're kind of in on drawing this Beck and Call though, which I don't love. Wirewood Symbiote. Do we have an elf that enters the battlefield? I guess Lonus we can bounce. Safi's not an elf. Also Keenan Bonder Prodigy, but Keenan, I actually realized I might cut from the cube because it doesn't work with Earthcraft. Keenan only works when you tap creatures for mana, which isn't really what this like deck does. I think I like Wirewood Symbiote. Jolriel is also pretty interesting. But we're going to take the Symbiote in case I can find... Ooh. Okay. Our deck just got 100 times better. There's the glimpse. Perfect. So yeah, as far as Wirewood Symbiote goes, we can bounce like Fauna Shaman, Masked Vandal. The Cryptozoologist. We didn't actually get that many elves, which is kind of unfortunate. There's Aquarian Ranger. There's Good Fortune Unicorn for another infinite combo with the Persist creature if I had taken him. So we could have had like just combo soup, which I'm down for, but Aquarian Ranger seems really good here. And hopefully we can grab that elf that taps for green equal to the number of creatures you control. Because then you don't even necessarily need a Lurin to go off. Like it lets us go off with Shrieking Drake or White Mane Lion, but then we have 3 different ways to untap a creature. Ooh, Concordant Crossroads. That's a spicy one. So all my creatures have haste, and all of their creatures too. Corpse Knight gives me a backup win condition though. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, an opponent loses 1 life. So you play Corpse Knight, and then you just go off with white mainline. I actually feel like this deck in particular doesn't really need haste. We're kind of relying on Earthcraft or other things, so I'm going to take this Corpse Knight. The only thing I really miss out on with this Concordant Crossroads is the Circle of Dreams Druid or whatever it is, but I think that's okay. We could take the Codal. It's just, you know, a 2-drop that draws cards, so hard to complain about that. You know what I would really love is, man, I can't think of the name of the card. Paradoxical Outcome, the 4-drop that returns any number of permanents and you draw cards equal to the permanents returned this way. That card seems sweet in this deck. All right, we need Circle of Dreams Druid or whatever. Yes, that came around. Oh, there's the Safehold Elite. Oh, interesting. Grafted War Gear. That is a sacrifice outlet. Huh. I need to think about this. I think Circle of Dreams Druid is just better, but oh, I don't have enough time. I'm going to take the Druid, but Grafted War Gear is super interesting and could be the correct pick. Here's another Persist creature, so we could have, you know, really gone deep, but that's okay. Because we have Fecundity, so if we had like Infinite Sacrifice with the Grafted War Gear, that's another way to just draw tons of cards. I think the way our deck is shaping up, we don't have a sack outlet. Oh, Shulane came around. Oh my gosh. This is kind of the dream. I think I cut Fecundity for now, and we will bring it in against any opponent with like mass removal basically. Because then like our whole goal here is to just, oh, I could play Tendrils. I'm not playing Keenan, I don't think. I'm gonna take Tendrils. You never know, there's a chance. Glacial Chasm. You know, that's interesting. Niv Mizzet last pick. Okay. So Glacial Chasm, I can also sideboard against aggro, just as a safe pick. So Metallic Mimic is gone. I have like way more than enough playables. I didn't get the Renegade Rallier, but honestly, Safi Eric's Daughter just is another way to protect my creatures, right? You like play White Mind Lion, they try and kill it, you have Safi in play. So now we have Safi Eric's Daughter, Spellskite, Sylvan Safekeeper, and then you can just cast Shrieking Drake or White Mane Lion to protect my dudes. So I like that. Reveler gives us a plan B because we are going to have a decent amount of mana as well as Shulane. Okay, I'm fairly happy with how this went. I probably need at least one piece of removal, so we'll take one on Thin Ice. Masked Vandal also kind of is removal. But yeah, I'm not going to go through building the full deck because that's going to be hard. But it would look something like this. I think the deck is sweet. And we can look through the decks that other people drafted just to get a feel of like what things look like. So we can go to game logs and review the game logs. And then I can go and look at like the final pile of everyone. I can't see their final constructed decks, but we can at least see the cards that they drafted. So this person has Tinker, Bolus's Citadel, Paradox Engine, Urza, which is a good start. They have Thopter Foundry. Oh, Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, and Clark. Wow, okay, their deck is sweet. So Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, that's a combo most people know of where you can spend 1 mana, you gain 1 life, get a 1/1 Thopter, and then Sword of the Meek comes back, you sacrifice the sword. So that's infinite life, or that's life in Thopter is equal to the number of mana you have. When you pair that with Urza, you can then tap both the Thopter and the sword. So you can get infinite mana and draw your whole deck. When you pair that with Korklan Ironworks, you get infinite mana, infinite life, and infinite 1/1 tokens. And I think you can do stuff with Paradox Engine, maybe. Or even Intruder Alarm, maybe. You can do some crazy stuff like that. So they have that combo, which is sweet. Then they just have Cranial Plating to attack, you know, for like infinite damage with all of these swords, which I like. They have Emery. So Emery Intruder Alarm is infinite if you have like a Memnite or something, or an Icehide Golem if you have Urza. So maybe you would play that, I'm not entirely sure. Master of Ethereum to pump up the things. Mersmith to make a bunch of 1/1 like tokens. Their deck looks really sweet. So sweet deck. I'd love to see the final build. I think this is Wrath of God. I don't know why the artwork is so unrecognizable. But yeah, sweet deck there. Theopolist has a very low to the ground curve. Oh, they have Lurrus as their companion, maybe. I don't know. There are some cards they may want to run, but Lurrus is good. Thoughtseize, Flame Slash, Preordain, Get Taxing Pro, Burst Lighting Vendetta, Dark Confidant, Krark. Wow, their deck looks really scary. Main deck Pyroclasm. Pretty good fixing and a Mana Crypt too. So you can just get lures very quickly and then dig through time and treasure cruise. So this just looks like a sweet Mardu Grixis aggro deck or something like that. Again, it's hard to see because they haven't built their decks. Oh, they could build the deck. Okay. Here's Bread Mod. They have Urza Saga, Tolarian Academy, and Mishra's Workshop. Oh my gosh. And Mox Emerald and Soul Ring to go alongside Steel Overseer, Scrap Heap Scrounger, Vault Scourge, Etched Champion, Scrap Trawler, and Junk Diver. So whoever had KCI, they could have shared. Nettle Cyst. Their deck is sweet. It lacks a little bit of, I guess they have Retrofitter Foundry. It's missing like one more payoff, I think, like some type of card draw maybe. They do have Retrofitter Foundry, Trinket Mage, and Urza Saga. So, you know, with Tolarian Academy, they could just go deep with the Retrofitter Foundry. So I think as long as they draw that card, or I guess they have a Scrap Trawler as well with like a Mind Stone. So their deck does some cool stuff. I actually like their deck quite a bit. Here we have Teal Baron, who seems to have drafted Storm. They have Fast Bond without too many combos that I'm seeing, so maybe they're just a late pickup. They have Mana Vault, High Tide, Thousand Year Storm, and Yawgmoth's Bargain, Coveted Jewel. So they have card draw, they have the Brain Freeze for the win con. So it's a decent Storm deck. I think it's missing like one more draw 7, or like a Past in Flames or Yawgmoth's Will. Yeah, that's right. They don't have any reshuffles. So if they get their Brain Freeze Thought Seized, I guess they have Codex Shredder to get it back. But that's a little bit sketchy. So it's a decent Storm deck. It's just a little bit sketchy, but it does have some strong starts. Here's ECPs. Well, I see Ancestral Recall Mox Pearl, so that's a good start. And Remand and Brazen Borrower. The deck looks a little... There's Thalia, Stoneforge Mystic, but they didn't get any equipment that I'm seeing. I do like Smuggler's Copter. Also, here's a hidden stockpile. Really decent in quite a few decks. Revolt, when I read this before, I didn't realize this just triggers off fetch lands, and it works just during your end stuff. But like basically every turn you fetch, you sacrifice an Urza's Bauble, you wasteland someone, you just get a 1/1 artifact creature. And that's really good in like some of the artifact decks. So that's pretty sweet. This deck is pretty interesting. I think it's just missing an equipment to go with like the Hallowed Spirit Keepers and stuff of the world. Clarion Spirit. Yeah, it can generate a lot of tokens, but not a huge way to capitalize on them. Here's Greenwing, who drafted what looks like a Birthing Pod Persist deck. Pretty good fixing. Really like that fixing. They have Pod, Felder Retreat, Ninjas, Omnath. So they have Redcap, Good Fortune Unicorn, Carrion Feeder. Any other sack outlets? No. So they have like a lot of the combos and enablers with Pod, like Renegade Rallier to get back on Offenza. They just need more sack outlets than just a Carrion Feeder. Although, honestly, that might be enough with... you have Recruiter the Guard, Birthing Pod to get there with tokens, Renegade Rallier to get it back. So maybe it could get there. It's a sweet deck. And then last but not least, we have Soundwave, who ended up in, looks like a pretty sweet Jund Sacrifice list. Corvold is one of my favorites. Gitrog Monster is sweet. They have Gitrog Monster, Ramanop Excavator. Do they have Fast Bond? No. But they have a lot of fetch lands. 1, 2, 3. 3 fetches. So it's fairly decent. And a lot of stuff. Oh, they have Mayhem Devil too. So they could just go like Corvold, Gitrog Monster, Mayhem Devil, just ping your opponent to death. And they have a Bloodghast to go with the fetches with Goblin Bombardment. Seems sweet. It might be missing a couple of mana dorks. The 1-drops look a little bit cluttered, but I think overall these decks look very fun, interactive. My deck isn't super interactive, but it could be. Maybe I need to add a couple more like flash creatures. If you have any suggestions for cards that should be adds, like definitely let me know. I decided I'm cutting Keenan for another Prime Speaker Vanifar, the one that's another Birthing Pod, because that seems sweet. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Any suggestions on the cube, I'm super interested and trying to get it on Magic Online, so maybe you'll see this and be able to draft it soon.